Good morning. How are you, Evan?
I'm doing good. I didn't expect you to talk to me. You threw me there.
That's all right.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
we're here with the forum
All right.
again and again and again.
All right. Well, have a good show, as they say.
I'm going to try.
All right. Go on.
Well, I'm not sure about the guest today. He's a little flighty at times. That's me today. Every once in a while, I do a program on my own. If I find an exciting article nationally about, a drug that's being prepared that might help with a certain disease, we would review the data. I'm a data person. I don't want to tell people, oh, gee, the statistics might be so and so. I want the exact numbers because data takes the argument away from an argument. When something is proven, it's proven. And that's it. You're not going to, debate back and forth. The example I use is handedness. Years ago, in another life, I was at a university and we were doing some research, and we did a study on handedness. And we wanted to find out with a particular disorder seemed to be more left-handed people than right-handed people. Well, we wanted to look at what is the population or what's the balance of left-handed and right-handed people in the world. Well, we were arguing, debating. We found 3 humongous studies done years ago, and it showed that left-handed people represented 10% of the world's population. Now, when you ask somebody how many people in the world are left-handed, they might say 20%, 30%, 5%. Well, these studies all agreed with the same data that it's 10%. Now, we don't have to argue about that anymore. The data is there to prove it. So when you look at these kinds of things and statistics, you have to take some faith in them. However, you have to be cautious about data that you read, because it could be that we were polling people in handedness in Bedford, Indiana. Bedford's a real small town. It's a quarry town. All right. And so we would find the population. Well, that doesn't generate to the population itself. So you have to take samples all over the place. You have to have a large number of participants to come up with averages. And statistically, there are a couple of different ways you can tally the data, whether it's, I'm going to use a parametric or non-parametric statistics. Parametric statistics are those that are taken with large numbers. Non-parametric statistics are smaller numbers. You might want to investigate how many homeless people there are in a small town between the ages of 12 and 18. Okay, then you're going to look at a real small data. That might not generate to other towns, might not generate to the countries or the world. I mean, it sounds complicated, but we still have to put our faith in the data that we read. All right, now, I started several weeks ago on an explanation of a program that's offered by hospice organizations. We have Treasure Coast Hospice here, and we have Vitas, okay? And they have a booklet, which is called the 5 Wishes Program. And the 5 Wishes Program was started years ago by a fellow by the name of Jim Towney, who worked closely with Mother Teresa. And for 1 year, he lived in a hospice she ran in Washington, D.C. Inspired by his own firsthand experience, he sought to find a way for patients and families to plan ahead and to cope with serious illnesses. The result is the 5 Wishes Program, and response to it has been overwhelming. It's been featured on TV, CNN, NBC, Today Show, been in the pages of Time and Money magazines. Newspapers have called the 5 Wishes Program the first living will with a heart and soul. Today, 5 Wishes is available in 29 languages. Now, in the United States, there are 42 states and the District of Columbia that accepts the 5 Wishes Program. I was quickly thumbing through, and I noticed that Ohio and Indiana are not 2 states that accept the 5 Wishes Program. Sometimes doctors in the state might be reluctant to honor it. However, many people from states not on the list do complete the 5 Wishes Program along with their state's legal form. Now, what this provides me with a chance to tell my environment, my family, any caregivers taking care of me, what I would like to have happen to me until my demise. I may be in a nursing home, and my 5 Wishes Program says I would like the lights subdued in my room. I would like soft music playing, and I would like my socks on. Those were things that I would like. Now, they have to honor these things. If it's in the Five Wishes program and this substitutes my living will, it's just like a living will. They have to conform to all the quirks that I would come up with. It's going to give me a chance to tell my family, tell my environment what I want done, what I want, and what I don't want. Okay. Now, I have a DNR personally, and that's a do not resuscitate. In other words, if I had a massive stroke and I was on a respirator and they said, well, he's brain dead, they would have to remove the respirator. If it was legally brain dead, they would have to remove the respirator. Now, if I were in an accident and suddenly something happened to me, yes, I'd like survival training, but when there is no hope for me to survive, I would like to go peacefully. And I think many people say that, or many people, I'm not cling to life. I don't want to be, I've seen people in nursing homes who are in comas that they turn them with their head facing the window for an hour, then their head facing the ceiling for an hour, then their head facing the door for an hour, rotating them so they won't get bed sores, decubitus. Okay. And that goes on all day long. There are ways to keep someone alive by putting in a feeding tube where they can put liquid in and keep the body going. That's a controversial issue too. I, for one, would probably, if I were toward my end of days, probably would not want a feeding tube. But that's up to the individual. Okay. There's no mandate for it. But with the Five Wishes program, I think you're going to see as we go along what the kinds of neat things that are in here. I don't want to be in pain. I want my doctor to give me enough medicine to relieve my pain. I wonder, does Jack Daniels count as medicine? I don't know. I want medicine even if it makes me drowsy or sleep more than I otherwise would. If I show signs of depression, nausea, shortness of breath, or hallucinations, I want my caregivers to do whatever they can to help me. I wish to have a cool mist cloth on my head if I have a fever. I want my lips and mouth kept moist to stop dryness. They have little swabs that you can put in to moisten the mouth. I wish to have warm baths often. I wish to be kept free and clean at all times. I wish to be massaged with warm oils as much as I can be. I wish to have my favorite music played when possible at the time of my death. I worked in a nursing home, and there was a nurse when somebody passed away would go in the room and open the window. And I said, why'd you do that? She said, that gave the soul a chance to fly to heaven. I thought it was a real neat symbolic gesture. I wish to have my favorite music played. I wish to have personal care like shaving, nail clipping, hair brushing, teeth brushing, as long as they don't cause any pain or discomfort. I wish to have religious readings if I want to have that done and read aloud. I wish to know about hospice options to care and provide medical, and spiritual care for me and my loved ones. I want to have people with me when possible. I want to have someone to be with me, and it seems that death may come anytime. I wish to have my hand held and to be talked to when possible, even if I don't seem to respond to the voice or touch of others. Now, I want to inject a little story that I've told on the air before. My friend Jim. Jim was a good friend of mine. We went to the same church. We shared some neat stuff. He was just a really nice guy, and I was happy and proud to be a friend of his. He was very ill, and he had stage 4 cancer, and he was not going to live very long. Well, I would cook a meal at a church. We did a function, and whenever I would cook chicken, Jim would say to me, please cook me a different meal. I hate chicken. I don't like chicken. Never liked chicken. Okay. So I'd always prepare him something side for Jim. Well, I went to visit him in hospice, and his wife was sitting there in tears, and Jim was sitting there kind of like in a half of a stupor. And I went in and I leaned over and whispered something into Jim's ear, and he started to laugh. And his wife said, what did you tell him? I said, I told Jim there is no chicken in heaven. Well, We all started laughing. We had a good half hour chatting. He seemed to perk up a bit. She wiped her eyes and now she was laughing with tears. I mean, we had a real good time. Jim died the following day. So every time I think about Jim and I think about the fact that there is no chicken in heaven for Jim, the giving him something positive to go out on, giving him something to smile about, to anticipate, and to make him a little bit happier. And it was just a moving moment for all of us. And that's the way I look at the passing of someone in their death. It so many times is a relief and a joy to have someone pass to the next world, if there is a next world, which I happen to believe there is. Um, the only sadness is left is the people who are still alive who grieve for their loved one because their loved one is no longer with them. But their loved one is no longer in pain, no longer in suffering. We even do this with animals. I don't know if you know the story of the Rainbow Bridge. And again, I'm going to give a website. If you want to email me, I'll send you a copy of Rainbow Bridge. And it's Call Sacco, CALLSACCO at AOL.com. That's Call Sacco at AOL.com. Let me tell you the story about Rainbow Bridge. Let's say, for instance, my neighbor has a dog that they've had for 15 years and the dog had to be put down, was very ill. We send him a copy of the Rainbow Bridge. The Rainbow Bridge is a story about heaven. There is a bridge that goes into heaven, which is called the Rainbow Bridge, from a meadow. When an animal dies, the animal cannot go into heaven by themselves. They wait in the meadow for you. When you pass and you're starting to walk through the meadow, the animal sees you, comes and jumps in your arms. Now you can carry that animal into heaven with you. That's the story of Rainbow Bridge. And it's a real sweet, comforting thing. We've sent it to many people and we've gotten very positive responses saying, gee, thank you. It made me feel a little bit better. I know Pookie is up there waiting for me in the meadow. I have a German Shepherd up there waiting many, many years ago. She passed away. And I know she's waiting. She's probably, tapping her toe saying, where are you? I've been waiting and waiting. Get up here. Take care of me. Take me into heaven. So we use the Rainbow Bridge. Okay. I want my family to know that I love them. I want to be forgiven for the times I've hurt my family, friends, and others. I wish to have my family, friends, and others know I forgive them for when they may have hurt me in my life. I wish my family and friends to know that I do not fear death itself, and I think it's not the end, but a new beginning for me. And I'll tell you another quick story. We went to a funeral here in Port St. Lucie, a number of years ago, and they brought the casket there was a Catholic service, they brought the casket into the church, and a young priest stepped forward to give a sermon. My first thought is, oh boy, what is he going to do? Where did he live? Where do you find this thing to give? He's green, he's new, he's a probie, he's a rookie. He gave one of the most beautiful sermons I've ever heard. He said, look, let me tell you the difference between earth and heaven. He said, and here's the analogy. When you are in the womb, that's your world. It's warm, it's wet, it's comforting, and there's sustenance. That's the only world you know. That is your world. All of a sudden, after a certain period of time, you're born into a world you never would have imagined, which is called what we live now. Going from the womb to this beautiful thing that was unbelievable. He said, right now, living on earth, we are in the womb. And when we pass away, we go into heaven. And heaven is an unbelievable place you never would have imagined. And I thought, what a great analogy that is. And people believe or want to believe or don't believe in what lies in the hereafter. But it's a wonderful thought and a comforting thought that there might be a possibility for that. And again, if these are part of your religious beliefs, you believe that. And that's a wonderful thing. I want my family and friends to know that I don't fear death itself. I think it's not the end, but a new beginning for me. I wish for all my family members to make peace with each other before my death, if they can. They say that the two horrible things you go through are weddings and funerals with family. Okay, there's a lot of dissension, a lot of arguments and stuff like that. You just need to pull together. You have to be careful in this day and age now because we have HIPAA, we have all these rules of engagement, we have um, guardianship, we have power of attorney, we have healthcare surrogate. Now, there may be two sisters that have been feuding for years, and one has guardianship, and the other one wants to be involved with money spending. Well, she can't be because the guardian is the one that takes care of that. Same with healthcare issues. The person who has a healthcare surrogate might say, let mom die in peace. The sister or brother who is not a healthcare surrogate says, no, we want mom to live as long as we can keep her alive, even if it's machines. Well, the person who has a healthcare surrogate is in charge of the mother's fate if the mother can't make her own decisions. And the other family members just have to go along with it. I mean, what can you do? Legally, you can't go and get an injunction against your sister who's not making the right decisions because mom has dedicated her to be the surrogate. I wish for my family and friends to think about what I was like before I became seriously ill. I want them to remember this way after my death. You remember the positive times. I was thinking about my son, who's a man. He's not a little boy anymore. He's halfway through his work process. And I think about some of the things that we went through together. And one of the most beautiful things happened to him. He's a great kid. He was a great athlete. I think I mentioned when he was a sophomore in high school, he was invited to try out with the Cincinnati Reds baseball team. Then he went into college and soccer and all that stuff. But there was an away baseball game in high school, and it was for whoever won the game would move on to this sectional tournament. Well, the score was tied like 5-5 after the 6 or 8 innings. And then it was tied again for another 2 or 3 more innings. My son was the catcher on our team. And the bases were loaded on the other team. And the guy hit a ball in the left field. Well, the person for third base started running home. The kid from left field threw a long lob, unbelievable throw, and it plopped in my son's glove as he touched the kid as the kid was sliding into home plate. He was clearly out. The referee lifted his hands and said, safe, game's over. I think the referee wanted to go home, the umpire. Anyway, there was a big controversy about that. Everybody was all upset. And my son just sat down on home plate with his head hanging down. So I came off the stands and I went and sat next to him. I didn't say anything. We just sat there together. And the crowd was dispersing. And his name is Matt. And I said, Matt, I want to tell you something. If anybody was responsible for losing this game, I was hoping it would be you. And he looked at me and said, why, Dad? I said, because you are the only one on this team could handle that without remorse. You saw it for what it was. And he said, you're right. And it was such a beautiful moment. We just sat there together. I didn't say, gee, come on, I didn't complain. And I was upset that the call was not good, but the call is call. That was it. But he had that stamina to sit there, to calm himself down and not to make a big deal out of it. And that, to me, was a moment that I knew he was going to be a great guy for that kind of attitude. So I have to tell the 5 Wishes program whether I want to be buried or whether I want to be cremated. And this would override any of my living will that I wrote out. This supersedes that, okay? I wish for my family and friends to look at my dying as a time of personal growth for everyone, including me. This will help me live a meaningful life in final days. I wish for my family and friends and caregivers to respect my wishes, even if they don't agree with them. I can specify where I want to be buried, if it's a crematory and they have a little garden, or whether it's going to be interment or in a vault. I can specify that. And I wish the following persons to know my funeral wishes, so we can lay that out. This is neat. If anyone asks how I want to be remembered, please say the following about me, and you can put that in. They would say to me, you laugh a lot. You always laughed a lot. Well, years ago, I read an article about laughter, and our brain is filled with endorphins. And when you laugh, the brain releases some of these endorphins and goes to what I call an owie. Let's say you have a sore shoulder and you start laughing, your shoulder doesn't hurt quite as much while you're laughing. And the endorphins go to that spot and minimize some of the pain. So I figured the more you laugh, the more you're going to be healthy. And there's the expression is laughter is the best medicine. And I think it is because we can generate that ourselves. Um, oh boy, if there's to be a memorial service for me, I wish for this service to include the following things like music or readings and everything. I have a very specific thing about my demise. At my passing, I would not like to have a church service. I don't want people going up to the pulpit and saying, "Oh, he was such a wonderful guy. We did this," and I don't want that kind of thing. If you want to tell me how wonderful it was, tell me while I'm alive. Don't tell everybody else, and I didn't know that. And what I want to do is have a luncheon for me after my passing, and I want everybody to come to the luncheon, free lunch. And the only stipulation is after lunch, they will pass a microphone around and everybody tell a silly story about me. So I want them to leave with a full belly and a smile on their face when they remember me. Not remember the church service, not remember the interment, but remember the fun that we had in saying, "Good luck, Pat, goodbye." I may want to dedicate parts of my body to science. Um, if I have dementia, I would like to donate my brain to the Brain Trust to further research, that kind of thing. Okay, now we're going to need, when we're stipulating about signing the witness form, I ask that my family, friends, doctors, and other healthcare providers follow my wishes as communicated by my healthcare agent, if I have one, and he or she is available, or otherwise expressed in this form. This form becomes valid when I am unable to make decisions or speak for myself. If any part of this form cannot be legally followed, I ask that all other parts of the form be followed. I also revoke my healthcare advance directives that I had made before, and I sign this. And then there needs to be two witnesses to identify the legality of this. The individual has to be 18 years of age or older, and is not an individual appointed by any agency. Like if you took someone to court and got them adjudicated, I love that word, means, in other words, have their rights taken away. Let's say somebody has severe dementia and they can't make any decisions. Well, then you could go to court and legally become a guardian for that person, and you will make all of their decisions. Now, there are resident rights, a number of things that we as adults or seniors are entitled to. This person, if you are adjudicated, you can't vote, you can't take a loan, you can't drive a car, all these things. The only right that you retain is the right to receive visitors. Now, back in the old days, in the nursing homes, the two sisters would be feuding. The one who was the legal guardian would put a list at the reception desk. The following people I do not want my mother to see, because they rile her up whenever she comes in. And they would honor that. They can't do that anymore. If there's a list of people that mother would like to have visit, they have to honor that. The only person that can slow that down or stop it is a physician. If the ugly sister comes in and riles mother, endangers her health, getting her all upset and everything, the doctor can write an order that person is not to visit. But that's the only way you can do it. So we don't have lists anymore. I was saying, "Why I'm mad at my sister. She can't come and see mom." And the other thing is, too, I'll give you an example. I got a call from a woman who hitchhiked from New York City to Florida to see her mother. She hitchhiked down and couldn't find her mother because her mother was in one nursing home and the sister had moved her to another nursing home. So the first sister called around, "Is so-and-so there, so-and-so there," but they couldn't give that information out because the sister was not on the list to know where mom was. She had to go through all kind of legal hoops to find out where her mother was to go see her. So there is a protection in that respect. Excuse me. So we get the witnesses, and then we have to have this form notarized. And it says this is only notarization is only required for residents of Missouri, North Carolina, South Carolina, and West Virginia. So you don't have to have it notarized if you live in Florida. What do we do after you complete the 5 Wishes program? Well, you make sure you sign and witness a form just the way it says in the directives. Then your 5 Wishes program will be legal and valid. You should talk about your wishes with your healthcare agent, family members, and others who care about you. Give them copies of your completed 5 wishes. And that's very important. Don't rely on somebody else to say, well, what did mom write down? No, give them a copy so you can see exactly what it is. Keep your original copy you signed in a special place. Do not put it in a safe deposit box. Why not? Well, sometimes when a person passes away and they have to do probate, they will freeze the access to the bank accounts, safe deposit box, etc. So you want to be careful not to do that. Keep it nearby so someone can find it when you need it. You may want to put a copy in the safe deposit box, but you may want to keep a copy as well. There's a little wallet card that's in the thing. Carry it with you. That way people will know when you keep your 5 wishes. Now, there's a little wallet card for resuscitation as well, by the way. If you have a DNR, do not resuscitate, you carry that in the wallet. It could be that, somebody sees who you are and it pulls it out and says, okay, the person is in stress at the mall, not breathing, don't give them CPR. I would not personally carry a DNR card with me if I were out and about. Because let's say for some reason I was choking and, wasn't going to be a death situation, I would really want to be brought back. But if it's a situation of a long-standing illness and I was on the path to mortality and dying, I don't think I'd want to. I think I would want my DNR. Talk to your doctor during your next office visit. Give your doctor a copy of your 5 wishes. Make sure it's put in your medical record. Be sure your doctor understands your wishes and is willing to follow them. Ask him or tell her other doctors who treat or honor them. And by the way, lists are important. Let's say your grandfather is now heading for a nursing home. And they do an intake of his effects when you come in. And they write down he's got 5 shirts, 3 pairs of pants, and 2 shoes, and some underwear. And yet he's got a beautiful watch and a beautiful ring. That's not on the list. Well, then when the watch or the wrist watch or the ring becomes missing, the nursing home has no responsibility because it's not in the chart. You write in the chart the things that come in at admissions. Now, if you put the watch and the ring in the list and it's missing, now the nursing home has an obligation to investigate it, to find it, or to replace it. So you have to be very careful about an inventory, and that's not something you think about when you're putting a loved one in a nursing home. But it's something that's very important because it's part of their process, like hearing aids. Okay? The hearing aids were not listed, and some aide took the hearing aid out at night and wrapped it in a tissue. Another aide came along, saw the tissue, and threw it in the trash bin. If it's not listed in the chart, the nursing home is not responsible. If it is listed, then they have to investigate and replace if necessary. The little dumb things like that really are important. The doctor, I said, make sure it's put in your medical record. Be sure your doctor understands your wishes and is willing to follow them. Ask him or her to tell other doctors who treat you to honor them. If you're admitted to a hospital or nursing home, take the copy of the 5 wishes with you. Ask that they put in the medical record. And what I would do is if I was putting someone in a nursing home and we had the 5 wishes program, when I went to look to see, was looking around to find a nursing home, I would say, my mom has 5 wishes program. Are you prepared to honor her wishes? And if they say yes, then you would consider that place. If they say no, or we have trouble with that, then I'd move along to someplace else. Residents of Wisconsin must attach the Wisconsin notice statement, whatever that is. Residents of California, Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont must follow special witnessing rules. Each state may have some kind of a special designation, and you have to have that accompanying your 5 wishes program. Remember, five wishes is helping you to plan for the future. It's not meant to give you legal advice. It's not try that does not try to answer all questions about anything that could come up. Every person is different and every situation is different. Laws change from time to time. If you have a specific question or problem, talk to a medical or legal professional for advice. Now, the other thing that I've seen in nursing homes, little old lady is admitted to a nursing home, and every night for the last 50 years, she's had a little jigger of brandy before she goes to bed. Well, she comes in the nursing home, there's no brandy. She's all upset. The doctor can write an order that she gets a little jigger of brandy every night before she goes to bed. Or a guy might want a beer before he goes to bed. As long as the doctor puts that in the chart, then the nursing home or the facility or community has to comply with that. And, weight is another thing. You might have a person coming in who's 320 pounds. Well, they realize this person is grossly overweight, so they put him on a diet. And the lady's 96 years old. Well, they're trying to get her down to her ideal body weight, which she had when she was about 25. Okay. So now they look at usual body weight. So if she's been 320 pounds for the last 20 years, they're going to maintain her at that weight rather than trying to put her on a diet. So, we've looked more and more toward what is human, what is necessary to keep the faith with this person who's passing away. Now, Florida has an inordinate amount of seniors, second only, I believe, to California. And in this country, it's really hard to maintain that dignity with seniors. In other countries and other societies and other ethnic organizations and groups, they take care of mom or dad at home. And mom or dad at home is an honored member of the family. They have wisdom, they have experiences, all these wonderful things that we don't know about. And here, the older you become, the more invisible you become in the society. A lady is in front of you in Publix and she's writing a check and she's very feeble. And you're thinking, come on, lady, hurry up. Come on, get on. Use your credit card. Come on, get out of here. Well, that woman might have been a phenomenal neurosurgeon in her time. And now she can't be what she was before, but we have to realize what she is. And I'm all for finding out what elderly people have done in their life. One of the things we're looking at right now is a series on veterans who were in World War II. We're dwindling in the numbers of veterans who fought in World War II or in Korea. What was their experience? How did they start out from leaving high school, and did they go to college, and did they get drafted or did they volunteer for service? Were they a non-commissioned officer or were they an officer? What duties and jobs did they have? What were their fighting combat experiences? What about those people that raised the flag at Iwo Jima? There was a lot of publicity at that time. That wonderful picture of them raising that flag when they finally took that island. And that was one of the most brutal. Yeah, see, that was one of the most brutal stories of our time. I'm going to pause a minute so we can do a commercial, and I'm going to finish the story. And we're back on the air with the forum. And here I'm suffering from blanks of memory. I said we were going to talk about something, and after the commercial, I forgot what it was. But anyway, I really have a lot of faith in this Five Wishes program. Um, Again, because I'm always a patient advocate. I'm always on the side of the person with the disorder, the person with the disease, the family who's panicking because they don't know what's going on. They haven't been properly educated. They need to meet with a social worker. They may need to get someone to help them if they're looking for assisted living or independent living or a nursing home or a secure unit in one of these communities. It's a confusion out there, and there are agencies that really will help you greatly in following that path. I'm not going to advocate for any at this point. I will give you, if you give me a call, I will give you some directions on where to go and who to talk to. And again, remember, just email me, and I'll give you information on that we talked about earlier. And like I said, you can get copies of this Five Wishes program from this one is from Vitas, and there is a office here in Stewart for the Five Wishes program, and the Treasure Coast Hospice. They have a new name now. There are offices in Stewart and Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce. You can get a copy from them. I know they at one point they were selling these for $1. I don't know what they're doing with them now. I got a copy at a health fair. And like I said, this is what I want to fill out for myself. And I would encourage you, if you want any input into what happens to you when you are no longer able to make some decisions, this is a beautiful way to designate that. I may hate rock music. And suddenly, my radio is on on a rock music station. Well, that's not good. That's going to irritate me. Or I might want something soothing and soft, or I may want rock music. But I can designate that. And whenever anybody is going to be treating you or taking care of you, what you need to do is to make sure they understand this is the best environment for me to pass away. And we're asking them to help us to set up the right environment for us to pass. And not give us your opinions, but to follow our directives and our choices. And again, with family, a lot of times this is a good thing to sit around and talk about before you get this filled out. Let's say if you do have a good relationship with your siblings, we're going to look at this thing and say, what would mom want? All right, we'll identify some things and then sit down with mom and say, well, this is what we're thinking. What do you think, mom? Let's work together as a group. And so we're all on the same page. Whether you have healthcare surrogate or not, this helps the family to pull together and to know what we're going to do in following these directives. Well, anyway, that's all I have for today. We have an exciting guest coming next week. We're going to look at a program called SHINE, SHINE. It's an acronym. Now let's see. Let me see if I can get it. Seniors Helping Insurance Needs of the Elderly, SHINE. And this is a program that is sponsored through the Area Agency on Aging. There are offices and districts all over the state of Florida, all over the country. And the SHINE volunteers will help you. They'll even help you fill out your income tax. They'll help you with things to guide you through. And SHINE will give you a great explanation of Medicare. Okay, there are four parts of Medicare. There's Medicare Part A, which is short-term hospital stay. All right, 100% paid for by the government. There's Part B, and Part B is outpatient services. When you go to a doctor's office, they will pay 80% of the cost, and you're responsible for the 20%. Now, if you have something like AARP or some kind of a secondary insurance, they will pick up the 20%. Part C is something most people don't know about, but these are the Medicare Advantage programs. These are individual companies that contract with the government saying, Evan is going to be a part of our system, okay? You pay us. We'll take care of Evan. You pay us what you would rate, and we're going to manage his care. And it's almost like buying a car. When you go into a part C, they have all these different levels that you can sign up for. Like, do you want a moonroof? Do you want a convertible? Do you want leather seats? All those things. Each one of these plans offers you certain things. And part D, which is the last part, is medication. So we have A, B, C, and D. Now, medication, you have to pay for that separately as well in the regular Medicare system. I don't think you do with an HMO, but I believe those medications are basically free. Now, the HMOs offer some things that Medicare doesn't offer. They offer a certain amount of money each year for a hearing aid. They offer a certain amount of money for glasses. Now I saw that one of them is offering rides to doctor visits as part of their HMO. But again, you're going to pay for the plan that you're going to select. They also have a membership in Silver Sneakers, an exercise program for seniors. So they offer extra things. And again, it depends on whether you have small needs or large needs. And you need to have somebody sit down and explain all this to you to find out what is best for you at the time. Now, you can switch, okay? If you're straight Medicare and you want to go into an HMO, there's a time period. In fact, we just finished it in the fall to switch from Medicare to an Advantage program. Then there's an open enrollment thing right now going on saying, I might not have made the right decision. I want to switch back. Used to be you could switch month to month. Now it's annual. So if I'm in a Medicare program in June, I may have to wait till October, November to switch into the other program. They all provide good services. It depends on your needs and your wishes. So Shine is the program that'll come and help you with this decision. Like I said, they'll even help you with other things. And it's a great agency, and it's a great free service that's paid for through grants from the federal government and the state government for the area agencies. Area Agency on Aging puts out contracts for Meals on Wheels, the foster grandparent program. There are a lot of neat things that they offer in our community. In fact, if you start looking at counties and cities and what they offer, it's a phenomenal amount of help to people who are in need. There are churches who have money set aside. If you're, living on the edge of poverty and you have a job and your car breaks down and you got to have $200 or else you're going to get fired, you can go to a church. And if the church is willing, they'll write a check to the shop where your car is being fixed, just to give you a little boost, to keep your job, to keep your family, keep your home, etc. So there are a number of opportunities out there. If you want some training, vocational rehab will provide training for someone. Let's say you were skilled and now you can't do your job anymore because your legs don't, you're supposed to be walking around all day in this job and you can't do it anymore. They may train you for a desk job. That is out there, and the service is available through the federal government. So, there are a lot of neat things that are available to us, and we need to know more about them. We got to have somebody from the city and the county come and talk about, we've done this before, but have them come and talk about all the benefits that are available within our community, within our counties, within our state. So anyway, Evan, I think we're going to wrap it up right now. And again, welcome to the pod. Yeah, right. Stretch it out. Yes. Let me ask you, where were you from before? Where were you from? Where did you come from?
Well, I came from my mother.
Yeah, I know you were born at a very early age.
Yes, I was. I'm from Queens, New York.
Oh, I'm from the other New York, Western.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I moved down here when I was, I want to say about 10 years old with my parents.
Ooh.
Came down in a Cadillac. My dad was the president of Ballantine and Rangel back in the day.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Good beer.
Beer of the Mets. Diehard Mets fan, diehard Mets employee.
Good beer.
Yeah. Moved down here when I was 10, and the rest is history.
So you've been in Florida all this time?
Been in Florida a long time.
Been in broadcasting?
Yeah, been in broadcasting since I'm 18. A very long time. Probably, I want to say, right out of high school, I got into broadcasting. Been in broadcasting over 40 years. That's giving my age away now.
Oh, you started when you were 6, so now you're like 46.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. How do you like living in Florida?
You know, I like it down here. I enjoy the weather. I don't have to deal with snow anymore. I like the temperature change. I like the climate change when it gets a little cool in the months of November, December,
January.
January, you know, maybe February. But boy, man, in June, it gets so hot down here. It's crazy.
Well,
it's
that's
ridiculous.
funny. I lived in Western New York near Rochester and Buffalo. The lake effect.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah.
Stuff. I'm sorry I said that word.
That's all right. You're allowed to say the crap word.
Thank you.
All right.
And one March, I was lamenting to a friend saying, gee, we had 10 snowstorms. And he said, no, we only had 3. I said, what were the other 7? He said, lake effect.
Okay.
I said, well, tell the difference to my snowblower.
Okay.
In fact, I gave it away. A friend of mine said, I'll buy your snowblower from you. I said, no, just go to the garage and get it out of here.
Wow.
I just didn't want it to happen.
Yeah, what's a snowblower down here? Yeah, in fact, you know, you mentioned the word snow. It did snow down here in my junior year of high school. I think it was 1977. They let the whole school out because it was snowing during school.
God,
so they let the whole school out early so everybody could see snow. It was crazy.
I did a master's degree in Indiana, in Bloomington,
right?
Indiana University. And one day there was some snow, and I had a little Volkswagen. 2 inches of snow came, and they closed the whole town. I was looking for snowbanks to drive over with my little Volkswagen because that would get you anywhere. In fact, I pushed myself up a hill one time. I had a manual choke,
right?
So I put the car in like second or third gear and pulled the choke out a little bit. And I got out and put my hand on the thing and pushed myself up a hill where there were cars stuck.
That's crazy. Well,
you know,
I guess you're like a prom dress. You're off. You're out of here.
I know.
You're done.
I'm done.
That's it. You're finished.
I got next week again.
Yes.
And again and again.
Yes.
And time flies.
All right.
When you're having fun.
All right.
Well, thank you again for being here. We're going to have a lovely relationship. I already see you and Bonnie are bonding.
Oh, yes.
Nicely.
We've bonded. That's my work wife.
And Bonnie listens to our broadcast when she gets in the car.
Very good.
And the other thing is, one of the things I say to Bonnie is when she's leaving, I say, let's be careful out there. Do you remember Hill Street Blues?
Yes.
That's what Esther House used to say when they were leaving. Hey, let's be careful out there. So we're all going to be careful out there, and see you next week.